Welcome to a new story. Today we will talk about the home of the Ross, an upscale and beautiful house located in the city center. But this beautiful house has a bad past, as there have been numerous murders. The crimes at the Ross family home were very grotesque and violent crimes. Even the residents of the city called it Killer House. But despite these rumors, Andrew Janis decided to buy this house because Andrew believed that these crimes were nothing but lies invented by the city's inhabitants. And the house was on sale for a cheap price, and Andrew bought the house and he and his family lived there for a while. And one day, something terrible happened in this house. But what is this terrible thing that happened inside the killer house? Let's start by analyzing the story of the Rouse family so we know what happened to them. Rouse's family home was located in the Liberty Fall area of Illinois, United States of America. The house was too big and upscale, and the owner of the house was 44-year-old Bruce Ross. Bruce was a successful businessman who owned a gas station, and Bruce was married to 38-year-old Darlene. Bruce and his wife lived in their house with his 3 children. The eldest son, Kurt, was 19 years old, and a girl named Robin, age 16, and a young son named Billy, age 15. The family was happy and living a normal life in their home, but on July 5th, 1980, there was a strong thunderstorm where the storm started in the middle of the night and continued into the morning. It was a very scary night. And the next morning, a staff member working at Bruce's gas station called Bruce's house. The employee found out that Bruce didn't come to the gas station. And the staff member was surprised by this, because it was Bruce who opened the gas station's doors in the morning. And the keys to the doors were in Bruce's possession, and the employee called Bruce's house to ask why Bruce was late. And Billy, Bruce's son, answered the employee's contact. The employee told the boy to wake his father up and come to the gas station. Billy went to his parents' bedroom but was shocked by the scene and ran screaming. He told the staff member on the phone that he had seen his mother and father killed in the bedroom and they were covered in many blood. And then Billy immediately called the emergency, and the police went straight to the Ross house. Investigators arrived at the house at 9 a.m. Police cars were a lot in the neighborhood. Kurt, Robin, and Bailey were sitting in the garden of the house. With them some relatives and neighbors. The investigators walked into Bruce's bedroom and hit the terrible scene. Bruce and his wife were killed on the bed. Bruce had a shot in the face and 7 stab wounds in the chest. And Darlene, his wife, had a bullet in her head. It was clear that Darlene had been shot at close range. And the investigators guessed that the gun was about 30 centimeters from Darlene's head. The investigators also guessed that the killer had a great hatred towards Bruce and his wife. And investigators began questioning Bruce's boys, asking them what they were doing the night the crime happened. Robin said she was out at a party with her friends and she came home late. She went home at 11 o'clock, went straight to her room and went to sleep. Billy said he was asleep on the night of the murder and heard no sound during the night. Because of the strong thunderstorm, Kurt lived in a small, isolated cottage located in the home's garden. He said he never watched his parents in the evening, and he played music in the cottage. The police also questioned neighbors, and neighbors said they heard no gunfire due to the sound of the thunderstorm. The police did not find any information about the killer from the interrogation. The police focused on the crime scene, and the police started searching the house. The house was very large. It was 2-story, had 13 rooms. There's a pool, a horse stable, and a parking lot. The police discovered secret doors in the house. These doors led to secret corridors connecting the sections of the house. And it might be that the killer hid in these secret corridors before he did the crime. Police also discovered a secret room under the pool. But they found no evidence of the crime in this secret room. The doctor who autopsied the victims' bodies had completed the collection of information. He said the crime happened at about 4 a.m. on the night of the crime. But so far, the police have not been able to find out what caused this crime. And the press and the media were interested in Bruce and his wife's murder because Bruce was famous and well known to all the residents of the city, and all the residents of the city were shocked by the news that Bruce and his wife were killed. And here the false rumors started spreading about the Bruce murder case, where news circulated that Bruce had bad relationships with the mafia and that the mafia assassinated him and his wife. And that's where the police started investigating Bruce's business relationships. They found that Bruce was born in 1936, and Bruce's father owned and worked at a gas station. Bruce was helping his father work inside the gas station. Bruce was an aspiring person. That's what made him able to invest, and Bruce was able to build his own new gas station. He was also engaged in buying and selling real estate, and he was a smart, friendly, and lovely man. In 1959, Bruce married his girlfriend Darlene, and they had 3 children, Kurt, Robin, and Bailey. In 1975, he bought the house we were talking about. Bruce's quick success made people think Bruce was protected by the mafia, and that the mafia had supported him, and that there was a possibility that Bruce would have gotten between him and the mafia otherwise. Because of this dispute, the mafia killed him. The police disclosed all of Bruce's financial transactions and also disclosed his bank accounts. But they found no evidence linking Bruce to the mafia. Bruce's work was entirely legal. But when continuing to investigate the rest of the family, the police noticed that Ross was not a perfect family. Since Kurt, the eldest son, was on drugs, the family kicked him out of the house, and Kurt lived in the cottage and the house's garden. Robin was a hardworking girl at school who was quiet and distinct from her brothers. And that's what made her parents love and be proud of her. And little Billy was a bad boy at school and a little naughty. But he was trying to please his father and going to help him at the gas station. Here the police learned that Ross' family was not very interconnected, which explains not noticing the great sadness of the boys on the day the crime happened. Relatives of the Rouse family took Bruce's boys and housed them in a place far from the press cameras. 6 weeks after the crime, the police were able to obtain new information. Billy was living in his aunt's house, and he asked the police to meet him to give them new information about his parents' murder. The investigators went to Billy to find out what the boy wanted. Billy asked the investigators for a very strange request. He wanted to see the crime scene pictures. The investigators rejected Bailey's request and told him it was violent images and a little boy would not bear to see them. But Bailey insisted on seeing the photos. The investigators approved his request and Bailey viewed the images of the crime scene. Bailey said that his mother was putting her bag next to the bed, and in the photos the bag was not there, and also his mother's jewelry box was not there. Billy also said that his father had hunting rifles to hide in one of the houses. The police immediately went to the house, but they already did not find the bag and did not find the jewel box. They also found that the hunting rifles did not exist, and here investigators guessed that the killer was meant to steal, but something happened that forced the killer to kill Bruce and his wife. In October 1980, there was a man in fishing. The man walked by the riverbank and by accident found a women's handbag and a jewelry box. He opened the bag and found some dollars and paperwork, along with a driver's license. It was a driver's license in Darlene's name. The police sent several divers to search the river, and they were able to find the ammunition and hunting rifles Bruce had. All the evidence was sent to forensic analysis, but they could not find any fingerprints on the evidence. This shows that the killer was trying to make the crime look like a robbery. And he stole jewelry to cover up his murder. The whole town thought the killer was Kurt. And that's because Kurt was on drugs and he was a reckless young man, and his relationship with his mother was bad, and there were some people who thought the killer was Billy. Although Billy was a little boy, he had bad friends. And he also took some drugs with his friends, and his parents knew about this, and his mother always reprimanded him for his bad deeds. But the police could not charge one of them with murder because there was no evidence to indicate their involvement. The case thus remained unresolved and had been closed. Billy, Kurt, and their sister, Robin, received $300,000 per person. And that amount was because of the living insurance, and 2 years after the crime, Robin contacted the police and said that she wanted to disclose new information about the crime. She said she felt the killer was one of her brothers, either Kurt or it's Billy, but Robin, before she met the police, was involved in a motorway accident and she died. She happened to die with her call to the police. The police immediately analyzed the incident involving Robin and found that the incident was normal. There were no indications that an incident had been planned. Everyone thought the incident had been planned by her brother Kurt, but the police investigated Kurt, and Kurt proved that he was in another city, and he had traveled about a week before Robin died, and investigators believed Kurt's statement because his absence from the scene was strong evidence that he was not involved. At that time, residents of the city began calling Ross family home the killer house, and no one wanted to buy this house because of the crimes inside it, but after a while a mafia man bought the house, turned the house into a casino, and the mafia was doing some crime inside the house, and the police went after the mafia business until the police were able to close the house and jail the man who owned it. It's been 15 years since Bruce and Darlene were killed, and nobody knew who the killer was. At that time, Kurt had moved to California. Billy had moved to Florida, and in 1995 the police decided to reopen the case of Bruce and his wife's murder. 2 months later, Billy was arrested for robbing a bank. Billy had married, but his wife broke up with him because he was on drugs a lot, and spent all his money buying booze and drugs, and continued his bad deeds until he became poor and lived in a dump. Billy agreed to meet with the investigators. Billy was 31, and investigators began asking him about the crime to which his parents were subjected 15 years ago. Billy started talking to the investigators and was very cooperative, but the investigators were shocked by a new information Billy said he had not previously told them. He said that the night of the crime he had grabbed his father's rifle and pointed it at the door of his parents' room. But then he stopped talking and confused, and he said he was exhausted and didn't want to complete the investigation. The next day, the investigators returned to Billy to resume the investigation. On this day, Billy said that on the night of the crime, he had gone out with his friends and drank some pills. When he came home, his mother was waiting for him, and when she saw him, she knew that Billy was high and drunk. She reprimanded him, and Billy walked into his room. He was upset with his mother. He took more drugs, went downstairs to the house. He walked into the kitchen, took a knife, and went back upstairs. He took off the door of the room that had his father's hunting rifles. He grabbed one of the guns, he shredded them, and he came back downstairs. He walked quietly towards his parents' bedroom, quietly opened the door. He stood in front of his mother while she was asleep and pointed the gun at her head. But he didn't pay attention and pulled the trigger of the gun, and immediately his father had woken up and looked at Billy. Billy also shot his father in the face, but the father did not die immediately. He was even whining and in pain, and Billy immediately grabbed the knife and started stabbing his father until he died. Billy was only 15 at the time. He was under the influence of drugs, and Billy said that he was not likely to hear the voice of pain that his father was releasing, and he killed him. After Billy killed his parents, he was confused. He took the jewelry in his mother's bag and also took his father's hunting rifles, and he put it in his father's car, and he drove the car until he got to the river, and there he threw the jewelry box and the bag and guns into the river, and he wanted to run away from the house, but he decided to go home and sit in his room in order not to raise doubts that he was the killer. And the investigators asked Billy if he regretted what he did. Billy said that he did not regret killing his parents, he only regretted destroying his sister Robin's life. As Robin suffered from a strong depression, Billy just hated his mother because she always reprimanded him and she always told him she hated him. Because of his misdeeds, he also said that over the past years no one has been told about the crime he did. Even his big brother Kurt said he was shocked and he never imagined Billy had done it. And despite Billy's confession, rumors emerged that Billy had hidden the truth and his brother Kurt had not been involved in the crime. And that Billy and Kurt planned to kill their father and mother in order to get all the money that their father had, but Billy denied all these rumors. Billy had been sentenced to 80 years imprisonment, and the bench would allow him to be released for a fine in 2035. The story of the murderous house is not over. Andrew Janis and his family have lived in this house for 10 years and they haven't had anything to do with it. But in 2002, the house was hit by a massive fire. Fire engines arrived and firefighters put out the fire. But luckily no one was inside the house. Janis's family had gone on a tour. Janis's family was considered the only family to survive this murderous house. This is the end of our story today. I hope you have been impressed, and don't forget to support our channel now. Good night.